I had never, ever, ever in my life been so scared. I mean, you can talk, people talk about malaria, people talk about all kinds of sicknesses. This was something you cannot explain.
So COVID is a virus that affects the respiratory system, which is the breathing system of the body. So most of the symptoms tend to affect that. It's known that a lot of people initially get a fever, and that's one of the first things that comes up. The next thing would then be symptoms with the respiratory system, so difficulty breathing.
When I contracted COVID-19, I felt nauseated, sort of disoriented, and after a few days, I had a slight cough, and then I sort of lost my smell and taste, and this is when I realized I'm onto something much more different than a traditional cold.
This was a combination of malaria, of flu, of anxiety, of pain that you can't explain. It was as if you were possessed by something.
The most odd feeling I would say was not really feeling my environment, because once you lose your senses, especially taste and smell, you sort of feel nauseated and disoriented. You're not sure what you're seeing and what you're tasting.
My only symptom was that rash, but it was accompanied by a really horrible itchiness, really painful by the end, like my skin was, I was going to scratch my skin off.
I mean, we've had some people who presented feeling a bit faint because they have low blood pressure, and some people have described having diarrhea as being some of the first symptoms. So again, it's a virus and it can affect different parts of the body.
Actually, I hadn't even realized I got it until my mom, 2 days before my mom passed. And that's when we knew she had COVID. And when we realized that it was actually COVID or suspected, it was on the Friday. She passed on the Monday. So, I mean, it was too late for me to do anything. So we just continued.
So I immediately called the 1025 number to arrange for a test. And for the day before the test, I made sure I isolated in a room away from my family.
And I remember my daughter coming into the room and seeing the way I looked, and she said, "Mommy, I can't be an orphan." Because my husband was having problems sleeping as well. He's diabetic, and he's over 60. We've just lost mom, and we were both having similar symptoms, but mine was worse. And when my daughter said that to me, and I had just lost my mom, I was like, I needed to fight this. And I stood in front of the mirror. I remember standing in front of the mirror and saying, "You're not going to get me. You got my mom, you wouldn't get my family."
I am more focused about keeping healthy, eating better, taking my vegetables and my vitamins, and drinking lots of liquids. I'm also trying to exercise regularly, much more than I would, and just trying to do my best also to protect myself, using hand sanitizers frequently, also wearing face masks, and avoiding crowds.
I'm so conscious about it. I literally put ginger and a lot of garlic in everything I drink and eat. I take a lot of fluids. I have minimized a lot of people coming into the house and going out, the traffic.
I think for a lot of us, we've always assumed, or we've always known that there are some deficiencies in our health system. What COVID has done is really shown or really made those far more apparent, the things that we lack and the things we don't have.
COVID came And it provided an opportunity for us to press that reset button and start a new normal.
I think it's pretty simple now, given that the world is interconnected and people are communicating and we sort of know what to do. The challenge is always the implementation part and changing habits. And I think people also tend to get tired of wearing the face mask and revert to old habits.
As it is now, our numbers are very low. We're getting 1 case a day, but as we're hearing on the news in other places, it's rising again. Everybody seems to have this second hit. Schools are reopening, people are going about their business again as normal, parties are happening, clubs are opening, and if we forget to continue doing the things that we were doing, then it's going to blow up again.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems with COVID is the stigma attached, people denying that it actually exists, and given that most people are asymptomatic. So I think using local languages, using traditional leaders and religious leaders to really penetrate communities and make them aware is very crucial in fighting COVID. But I think also people need to be aware that there's no stigma attached to COVID, and it's not a death sentence. Once you get it, you just have to take certain precautions not to spread it in the community, and also take certain precautions to make sure that your immune system can beat it. So I've beaten it, many people have, and I think this is the message we want to get out into our community, that as a whole, we can beat COVID.
People who've lost their families coming out and being honest. You know, I mean, there's no stigma to this. The pain and the death and losing someone as a result, I think is something you cannot allow somebody else. I cannot allow somebody else to go through this with me knowing that I have information that I can share.
COVID did nothing to me really, but what if I had passed it to someone vulnerable, and God forbid what could have happened to them? So yeah, I'd urge everyone to just bear that in mind, that it might not harm you, but the person you're harming, unintentionally of course, you know, it wasn't their choice to catch it. So please stay safe.
The reason the numbers have come down is because, at least to some extent, people started following the guidance. And if we stop doing that, that's when it's going to come back. And usually when it comes back, as we're seeing elsewhere, it's even worse sometimes than the first wave of COVID. So wear masks, distance as much as possible where you can, don't do things that are unnecessary. You know, there will be parties next year, there will be other things that you can do in time. Let's just make sure we get this under control. If there's a vaccine that works, then we get vaccinated, and then we can try and go back to normal. COVID doesn't look like it's leaving anytime soon.